The grand reception hall of Concordia Space Station sparkled with 1,000 lights. Aliens from dozens of worlds filled the massive room. Some had blue skin, some had 4 arms. Others looked almost human, but with strange eyes or unusual hair colors. Everyone wore their finest clothes. Everyone spoke in polite voices. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. Jake Morrison stood near the large window that showed the stars outside. He wore his formal Earth diplomatic uniform. It was dark blue with silver buttons. He had worked hard to get this position. For the past 6 months, he had studied alien cultures and languages. He had learned how to bow correctly to the Zenthi people. He had memorized which foods the Krell could not eat. He had practiced patience. Tonight was important. The Valoran Empire controlled 40 star systems. They had technology Earth could only dream about. They had medicines that could cure diseases humans still struggled with. If Earth could make friends with the Valorans, it would change everything for humanity. "The princess is coming," Lisa Hayes whispered to Jake. She was his security chief and closest friend. She stood beside him, watching the crowd carefully. Jake nodded. He had read everything about Princess Lyra of Valoran. She was 19 years old. She had been trained in diplomacy since childhood. Her father, Emperor Theron, was sick. That was why she came instead of him. This was her first major diplomatic mission. The crowd grew quiet. Everyone turned to look at the main entrance. Princess Lyra entered the hall. She was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight. Her hair was long and white, flowing down her back like water. Her eyes were violet, bright and sharp. She wore a dress made of fabric that seemed to shimmer and change colors as she moved. Jewels hung from her neck and wrists. She walked like someone who had never doubted her own importance. Behind her came 6 guards. They were tall and wore armor that looked both ancient and advanced. Their hands rested on weapons that hummed with quiet power. Ambassador Chen rushed forward to greet her. He was the senior Earth diplomat. He bowed deeply. "Your Highness, welcome to Concordia. We are honored by your presence." The princess barely looked at him. She gave a small nod and walked past him into the crowd. Other ambassadors came to greet her. She smiled at some. She ignored others. She seemed to decide in seconds who was worth her time and who was not. Jake stayed by the window. He believed in letting people come to him. It showed respect without appearing desperate. After 20 minutes, Ambassador Chen brought the princess to meet Jake. "Your Highness, may I present Jake Morrison, Earth's diplomatic representative?" Jake bowed politely. Not too deep, not too shallow. "Your Highness, it is an honor to meet you." Princess Lyra looked at him. Her violet eyes moved from his face down to his uniform and back up again. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who found something amusing in a cruel way. "This is Earth's representative?" she asked, still smiling. She turned to her guards. "Look at him. Look at that uniform. It is so primitive." The hall grew quieter. People nearby stopped their conversations. They turned to watch. Ambassador Chen's face went pale. "Your Highness, I assure you—" No, let me finish," the princess said. She looked back at Jake. "You humans are barely evolved apes, are you not? You only discovered faster than light travel 5 years ago. 5 years. My people have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. She walked in a slow circle around Jake, looking at him like he was an interesting animal in a zoo. "And yet, you come here, to this station, wearing your little costume, pretending to be equals with civilizations that built empires before your species learned to make fire." She stopped in front of him again. "It is almost cute. like watching a child dress up in adult clothes. Several aliens in the crowd made sounds of disapproval. The insult was too direct, too rude. Even in the complex world of alien politics, this was crossing a line. Lisa's hand moved toward her weapon. Jake saw it from the corner of his eye. He gave a tiny shake of his head. No. Ambassador Chen tried to speak. "Your Highness, perhaps tell me, human," the princess interrupted. "Does your little planet even have anything worth trading? Or are you here to beg for our technology, like the children you are?" The room was completely silent now. Everyone watched. Everyone waited to see what Jake would do. Jake looked at Princess Lyra. He looked directly into her violet eyes. He did not look angry. He did not look afraid. He did not look sad. He looked at her for exactly 3 seconds. Then he reached out and placed his untouched drink on a nearby table. The glass made a soft sound as it touched the surface. He turned away from the princess, and he walked toward the exit. He did not say a single word. His footsteps were the only sound in the huge hall. Every alien, every human, every guard watched him walk away. Lisa followed him, her hand still near her weapon. Ambassador Chen stood frozen, his mouth open. The princess's smile faded. She watched Jake's back as he moved through the crowd. People stepped aside to let him pass. "Wait," she said, but her voice was quiet, uncertain. Jake did not stop. He did not turn around. He did not pause. He walked out of the hall and disappeared into the corridor beyond. The princess stood alone in the center of the room. For the first time in her life, someone had walked away from her. Someone had refused to care about her power, her title, her beauty. And somehow, his silence felt more dangerous than any threat she had ever heard. 1 hour after Jake walked out of the reception hall, the entire station knew what happened. In the Zenthi section of Concordia, Ambassador Krell sat with his council. "The human walked away," one of his advisors said. "He said nothing. He just left." Krell nodded slowly. He had known Jake for 3 months. "That is not good," he said quietly. "That is very not good." "Why?" asked a younger Zenthi. "He's just one human. She is a princess of the Valoran Empire." Krell looked at the young one with sad eyes. "You do not understand. When a warrior stays and argues, he still respects you. When a warrior goes silent and walks away, he has decided you are not worth his words. He has removed you from his world completely." In the Terralux embassy, 3 ambassadors watched a video recording of the incident. They played it again and again. They focused on Jake's face in the 1 hour after Jake walked out of the reception hall, the entire station knew what happened. In the Zenthi section of Concordia, Ambassador Krell sat with his council. "The human walked away," one of his advisors said. "He said nothing. He just left." Krell nodded slowly. He had known Jake for 3 months. "That is not good," he said quietly. "That is very not good." "Why?" asked a younger Zenthi. "He's just one human. She is a princess of the Valoran Empire." Krell looked at the young one with sad eyes. "You do not understand. When a warrior stays and argues, he still respects you. When a warrior goes silent and walks away, he has decided you are not worth his words. He has removed you from his world completely." In the Terralux embassy, 3 ambassadors watched a video recording of the incident. They played it again and again. They focused on Jake's face in those 3 seconds before he turned away. "Look at his eyes," one said. "No anger, no hurt, nothing." "He made his choice in that moment," another replied. "He chose to cut all connection with her. This is worse than any insult he could have thrown back." "Should we contact Princess Lyra?" the third asked. "No," the first ambassador said firmly. "If we associate with her now, the human will cut us off too.
I heard he is friends with the Corthan ambassador. The Corthans control 6 major trade routes. We cannot risk losing that connection." The news spread like fire in a dry forest. In his quarters, Jake sat on his bed. He had removed his formal uniform and wore simple clothes. He stared at the wall. His face showed nothing. Lisa stood near the door. She had seen Jake in combat. She had seen him negotiate with hostile aliens. She had never seen him like this. "The Valoran delegation sent 5 messages," she said softly. "They want to apologize. They want to arrange a private meeting." "Delete them," Jake said. His voice was calm, cold. "Ambassador Chen wants to talk to you. He says this could damage Earth's relationship with—" "Enough, Lisa. I know what it could damage," Jake interrupted. He looked at Lisa. "Tell me something. If someone spit in your face and called you a child, would you shake their hand 5 minutes later?" Lisa said nothing. "We came here with respect. We studied their culture, we learned their customs, we brought gifts, we offered friendship, and she looked at me like I was dirt on her expensive shoes." He stood up and walked to the window. "I will not beg for respect, not from her, not from anyone." Lisa watched him for a long moment. Then she sat down in the chair near his desk. "You know what you are doing, right? You know what walking away from her really means?" "Yes. You are not just walking away from the princess, you are walking away from the entire Valoran Empire, their technology, their medicine, their protection." "I know. Earth needs that alliance, Jake. We are still weak out here. We still need friends." Jake turned to him and faced her. "And what kind of friends would we have if we accept that kind of disrespect? Today she calls us apes. Tomorrow she demands we bow lower. Next year she treats Earth like her personal servants." He shook his head. "No, some prices are too high." Lisa smiled slightly. "You know what I love about you? You actually mean that." A soft chime sounded. Someone was at the door. "That will be Chen," Jake said. "Tell him I am sleeping." Lisa checked the door screen. Her eyes widened. "It is not Chen. Who is it?" "Ambassador Drex of the Corthan Republic." Jake's expression changed. Drex was one of the most powerful diplomats on Concordia. His people controlled massive sections of space. He was older, wiser, and famously difficult to impress. "Let him in," Jake said. The door opened. Ambassador Drex entered. He was tall, over 7 feet, with dark blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were golden and intelligent. He wore robes that marked him as a senior member of the Corthan government. "Ambassador Morrison," Drex said with a slight bow. "Ambassador Drex," Jake replied, bowing the same amount. Drex smiled. "I watched what happened in the reception hall. I came to tell you something important." "What is that?" "You have earned my respect tonight. The Corthan Republic values dignity above all else. You showed true dignity, not by fighting, not by arguing, but by refusing to participate in your own humiliation." He stepped closer. "I want you to know that the Corthan Republic is withdrawing from all scheduled meetings with Princess Lyra. We will not negotiate with someone who treats diplomatic guests with such contempt." Jake stared at him. "Ambassador Drex, you do not need to do that." "I know I do not need to," Drex replied. "I want to. There are standards in diplomacy. She broke them. There must be consequences." He turned to leave, then paused. "Also, I am not the only one. I have spoken with the Zenthi, the Terralux, and the Mexerai delegations. We are all withdrawing from contact with the Valoran princess. She will find this station very quiet for the rest of her visit." After Drex left, Lisa let out a long breath. "Jake, do you understand what just happened? 4 major empires just sided with you against the Valorans." Jake nodded slowly. He understood. His simple act of walking away had created a political earthquake. In the Valoran ship docked at Concordia, Princess Lyra sat in her private chamber. Her chief advisor, Lord Malik, stood before her with his head bowed. "Repeat that?" she said coldly. "Your Highness, the Korthan Republic has cancelled all meetings with you. So have the Zenthi, the Terralux, and the Mexerai. The Planari ambassador sent a message saying you are no longer welcome at their embassy." Lyra felt something cold in her stomach. "Because of the human?" "Yes, Your Highness. One human, one representative from a species that just learned to travel in space? That is impossible." Lord Malik hesitated. Then he pulled out a datapad. "Your Highness, there is something you should know. Something about Jake Morrison." "What about him?" "He is not just a diplomat." Malik handed her the datapad. 2 years ago, there was a war. The Kryn swarm attacked a refugee station near the border. 10,000 aliens were trapped there. Men, women, children from 7 different species. The Kryn do not take prisoners. They kill everything. Lyra looked at the screen. She saw images of Jake, but younger. He wore military armor. His face was harder. His eyes were different. "Commander Jake Morrison led a rescue mission," Malik continued. "He had 50 Marines. The Kryn had 5,000 warriors. Everyone told him it was suicide. He went anyway." The images showed a massive battle, ships burning, stations breaking apart. Through it all, small human ships darted in and out, pulling refugees to safety. "He saved 9,462 lives that day," Malik said quietly. "He lost 31 of his own Marines. After the war ended, 5 different alien governments offered him medals, offered him money, offered him positions of power. He refused everything. He said he did it because it was right, not for rewards." Lyra felt her hands shaking. Why did he become a diplomat? Because he was tired of war. He told his commanders that he wanted to build peace instead of fight battles. The Earth government agreed. They sent him here because he is the one human that multiple alien species already trust and respect. The princess stood up. She walked to her window and looked out at the stars. "So the barely evolved ape I insulted tonight is actually a war hero, a man who risked his life to save thousands of alien lives, a man who turned down wealth and power because he didn't need it. Yes, Your Highness. I called him primitive. I called his people children. Yes, Your Highness." Lyra closed her eyes. For the first time in her 19 years of life, she felt truly ashamed. Her communication panel suddenly lit up, an incoming message from her father, from the Emperor himself. She accepted it with trembling hands. Emperor Theron's face appeared on the screen. He looked old and tired. His silver skin seemed faded, but his eyes were sharp and angry. "Daughter," he said, "I have heard what you did." "Father, Be silent." His voice was hard. "You have embarrassed our family. You have embarrassed our empire. You insulted a man who has done more for galactic peace than you have done in your entire life." "I didn't know." "That is your problem. You did not know. You did not ask. You did not research. You saw his youth and his species and decided he was beneath you. That is not how an
Princess Lyra stood in the empty corridor. The door was closed. The human was on the other side. She had never been rejected before. Never. She raised her hand to knock again. Then she stopped. What would she say? That she was sorry? She had already said that. He did not believe her. And if she was honest with herself, she knew why. She was not really sorry. She was just following orders from her father. Slowly, she lowered her hand. She turned and walked back to her ship. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway. Inside his quarters, Jake stood with his back against the door. Lisa watched him carefully. "That was cold," she said. "It was honest," Jake replied. "She came because her father told her to, not because she understood what she did wrong." "How do you know?" "I looked in her eyes." Jake walked back to his desk. When someone is truly sorry, you can see it, you can feel it. She was just reading from a script in her head. Lisa sat down. "So what happens now?" "Now she has a choice. She can give up and go home, or she can actually learn something." "And if she gives up?" Jake shrugged.
Then Earth will find other allies. We always do. On the Valoran ship, Princess Lyra entered her private study. Lord Malak was waiting for her. "He refused your apology?" Malak asked. "He did not even speak," Lyra said. "He just looked at me and closed the door." "What will you do now, Your Highness?" Lyra sat down heavily in her chair. For the first time in hours, she let her perfect posture slip. She looked tired. She looked young. "Tell me everything about him," she said. "Not just his military record, everything. Where he grew up, what he studied, why he does what he does. I need to understand him." Malak pulled out his datapad. "I already started the research, Your Highness." For the next 2 hours, Lyra read. She read about Jake's childhood on Earth. His parents were teachers, not rich or powerful. He grew up in a small town. He studied history and languages in university. He joined the military because he wanted to protect people, not because he wanted glory. She read reports from the Kryn War. Other soldiers talked about Commander Morrison. They said he never asked anyone to do something he would not do himself. They said he learned the names of every alien refugee he saved. They said he cried at the funeral for his fallen Marines, but did not let anyone see. She read about his transition to diplomacy. He had turned down 3 promotions. He had refused a position as an admiral. He told his commanders, "I am tired of fighting. I want to build something instead of destroy." One file caught her attention. It was a letter he had written to the family of the Marine who died in the Kryn rescue. She read it slowly. "Your son gave his life so that others could live. He did not know the aliens he saved. He did not speak their languages, but he knew they were people who deserved a chance. That is what a hero is. Not someone who fights for glory, someone who fights for strangers because it is right." Lyra put down the datapad. Her hands were shaking. "He meant every word of that," she whispered. "Yes, Your Highness." "And I called him an ape. I called his people children." She looked up at Malak. "I did not just insult a diplomat. I insulted everything he believes in. I insulted the memory of the people who died following him. I insulted every value he has built his life around." Malak nodded sadly. "Yes, Your Highness." "No wonder he walked away. No wonder he closed the door." Lyra stood up and walked to her window. "I thought I was better than him because I was born into power. But I have never earned anything. I have never risked anything. I have never fought for strangers who could not repay me." She turned back to Malak. "I need to see him again." "He will not open the door, Your Highness." "Then I will wait outside his door until he does." At 0300 station time, Jake could not sleep. He got dressed and decided to walk the quiet corridors. Sometimes moving helped him think. He passed the observation deck. Through the huge windows, he could see ships docked at the station. Stars glittered in the distance. This view usually calmed him. "Beautiful, is it not?" Jake turned. Ambassador Drex was standing in the shadows near the window. "Ambassador," Jake said with a respectful nod, "you are awake late." "So are you." Drex walked closer. "I wanted to ask you something. Why did you really walk away from the princess?" Jake thought about his answer. "Because some battles cannot be won by fighting." "Explain." "Because if I had argued with her, she would have argued back. If I had insulted her, she would have insulted me. We would have gone back and forth, and nothing would change." Jake looked out at the stars. "But when I walked away, I took away her power. I showed her that her opinion of me doesn't matter. I showed her that I don't need her approval." Drex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You are young, but you are wise. Do you know what the ancient Korthans used to say?" "What?" "The strongest warrior is not the one who defeats his enemy. It is the one who makes his enemy defeat themselves. Drex put one of his 4 hands on Jake's shoulder. She is defeating herself right now. Her arrogance created enemies where she needed friends. Her pride destroyed opportunities her empire needed. You did not have to lift a finger. I don't enjoy watching someone fail, Jake said quietly. I know. That's why you will be a great diplomat someday. Drex started to walk away, then paused. I heard she came to your door tonight. She did. Will you forgive her? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I will forgive her when she understands what she needs to be forgiven for, not the insult. Anyone can apologize for words. I will forgive her when she understands that she hurt the idea of respect itself, when she understands that power without wisdom is just bullying with a crown. Drex smiled. Like I said, wise. The next morning, Jake woke up and prepared for his day. He had meetings scheduled with the Scifi delegation. He had reports to write. He had work to do. He opened his door to leave. Princess Lyra sat on the floor outside his quarters. She looked like she had been there all night. Her fine clothes were wrinkled. Her white hair was messy. Her violet eyes were red from lack of sleep. She stood up quickly when she saw him. Ambassador Morrison, she said. Jake looked at her. He saw the tiredness on her face. He saw that she had been crying, but he also saw something new. He saw uncertainty. He saw doubt. He saw the beginning of understanding. Your Highness, he said neutrally. I read about you last night, she said. Her voice was rough from exhaustion. I read about the Kryn War. I read about the refugees you saved. I read the letter you wrote to the family of the Marine who died. Jake said nothing. I understand now, she continued. I did not just insult you. I insulted every value you hold important. I mocked the sacrifice of the people who followed you. I treated their memory like it was worthless. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. I am sorry, truly sorry, not because my father ordered me to apologize, but because I was wrong, completely, terribly wrong. Jake studied her face. This time he saw real emotion, real regret, real shame. But he also knew that understanding and changing were 2 different things. Words are easy, Your Highness. Understanding what you did wrong is the first step, but it is only the first step. What is the second step? Proving that you learned from it, not to me, to yourself. He walked past her and continued down the corridor toward his meetings. Lyra stood alone in the hallway again, but this time felt different. This time he had spoken to her. He had given her direction. He had given her a chance. She did not waste it. For the next 3 days, Princess Lyra changed. She stopped demanding that people come to her. She went to them. She visited the Scifi embassy and apologized for her behavior. She visited the Terralux delegation and asked how she could repair the damage she caused. She studied Earth's history. She learned about human struggles and human achievements. She learned that humanity had survived wars, diseases, natural disasters, and their own mistakes. They were young in space, yes, but they were not weak. They were not children. She sent messages to Jake. She did not ask for meetings. She did not demand his time. She just sent information, research she had done, thoughts about Earth culture, thoughts about diplomacy. Jake read every message. He did not reply to most of them, but he read them. Lisa noticed. She is trying, she said. Yes, Adjutant agreed. Is it working? Maybe. Jake put down.
The explosion rocked the eastern wing of Concordia Station. Metal screamed, glass shattered, people screamed louder. Princess Lyra was in her private study when it happened. The lights went out. Emergency red lights came on. The whole ship shook like something had hit it. Your Highness, Lord Malik burst through her door. We must leave now. The Kryn are attacking. The Kryn? Lyra's blood went cold. Everyone knew about the Kryn. They were monsters. They did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. They killed everything and everyone. "How many ships?" she asked. 300, maybe more. Malik grabbed her arm. "We need to get to the escape pods." They ran into the corridor. It was chaos. Aliens of every species pushed and shoved, all trying to reach safety. Some carried children. Others carried whatever valuables they could grab. Fear filled the air like smoke. Lyra's 6 royal guards surrounded her immediately. "Stay close, Your Highness," the captain said. His name was Vorn. He had protected her since she was a child. They pushed through the crowd. Another explosion, closer this time. The station shook again. Somewhere above them, metal groaned and bent. "The Kryn are boarding," Vorn said into his communicator. "Section 7 is breached. Section 12 is breached. They're coming fast." Lyra heard screaming ahead. Then she heard weapons fire, the horrible sound of Kryn warriors clicking and hissing like giant insects. "This way," Vorn pushed her down a side corridor, away from the sounds of battle. But the side corridor was blocked. A piece of the ceiling had fallen. Debris filled the hallway. Smoke made it hard to see. "We cannot go this way," one of the guards said. "Then we go back," Vorn decided. They turned around, but the main corridor was worse now. Fire had broken out. Through the smoke, Lyra could see dark shapes moving. Kryn warriors. Their claws scraped against metal. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. "We are trapped," whispered Malik. Vorn looked at his guards. They looked back at him. Some were afraid. Others looked determined. But all of them knew the truth. If the Kryn reached them, they would die. "We need to find another route," Vorn said. He checked his datapad. "There is a maintenance tunnel 3 corridors down, if we can reach it." Another explosion, the loudest yet. The floor beneath them cracked. Warning sirens screamed even louder. "Hull breach in Section 9. Atmosphere venting. Evacuate immediately." One of the younger guards, a soldier named Keth, started backing away. "I have a family," he said. "I have children waiting for me." "Hold your position," Vorn ordered. But Keth kept backing away. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I'm sorry." Then he turned and ran. Another guard followed him. Then another. Within seconds, only Vorn and one other guard remained. Lyra stared at the empty corridor where her guards had been. They had sworn oaths. They had promised to protect her with their lives, and they had run away. "Your Highness," Vorn said quietly, "I will not leave you, but we need to move now." They ran through the smoke and chaos. Lyra's expensive shoes were not made for running. She kicked them off and ran barefoot. Her beautiful dress tore on sharp metal edges. She did not care. They turned a corner and saw a group of civilians huddled against a wall. They were Zenthi, the species with blue skin and gentle eyes. There were about 20 of them, men, women, and children. They looked terrified. "Please help us. We are lost. We do not know how to reach the escape pods." Vorn looked at them. Then he looked at Lyra. His face was hard. "We do not have time, Your Highness. We must go." "But they will die," Lyra said. "If we stop for every person who needs help, we will all die," Vorn said. It wasn't cruel. It was just honest. "You are a princess. Your life matters more than theirs. That is the truth of power." Lyra looked at the Zenthi families. The children clung to their parents. They reminded her of something, of someone, of the reports she had read about Jake Morrison and the refugees he saved. Before she could decide, she heard a voice, a human voice, calm and clear through the chaos. "Everyone, listen to me." Jake Morrison stood at the end of the corridor. He wore his diplomat uniform, but moved like a soldier. Lisa Hayes stood beside him, as well as 3 other humans. They carried emergency equipment and weapons. "I am Ambassador Morrison," Jake said loudly. "I am organizing evacuation routes. If you can hear me, follow my instructions exactly." People stopped panicking. They stopped pushing. They looked at him. "Children and elderly first. Everyone else form 2 lines. We're going to move in groups of 30. Stay together, stay calm. We will get everyone out." A Terralux alien stepped forward. How do we know you know what you are doing? Because I have done this before, Jake said simply. Trust me or do not, but if you want to live, follow me, now. Something in his voice made people listen, not because he was powerful, not because he had a title, but because he spoke with absolute certainty. The Zenthi families immediately moved toward him. Others followed. Jake's eyes scanned the crowd. They passed over Lyra without stopping, without recognition, without care. He had seen her, and he had looked right through her. Lisa, Jake said, take the first group, route Alpha to Dock 7. Move fast but safe. Got it. Lisa started leading a group of 30 civilians down a side passage. Jake turned to the remaining people. Second group with me. We go through the maintenance tunnels. It's tighter but safer from the Kryn. Lyra stepped forward. Morrison. He didn't even glance at her. Third group, stay here for 2 minutes, then follow the emergency lights to Dock 4. Do not stop for anything. Understood? People nodded. They followed his instructions without question. Jake started moving with his group. 30 civilians followed him like he was a general leading troops. Lyra tried to follow. Vaughn grabbed her arm. Your Highness, we must find our own route. No, Lyra said. She pulled her arm free. We follow him. They joined the back of Jake's group. Lyra watched how he moved, how he checked corners before letting people pass, how he helped an elderly Mexari woman when she stumbled, how he knew exactly where to go without checking a map. They reached a maintenance tunnel. It was narrow and dark. Jake went in first. Watch your step. Hold on to the rail. Children in the middle, adults on the outside. They moved through the tunnel. It was hot. Sweat ran down Lyra's face. Her dress kept catching on metal pipes. She heard the battle above them, weapons fire, explosions, screams. A child started crying. A small Zenthi girl, maybe 4. She was scared. Jake stopped the whole group. He knelt down in front of the child. Hey, he said gently, what's your name? Lyra, the child whispered. That's a beautiful name. Lyra, do you know what I used to do before I became a diplomat? The girl shook her head. I was a Marine. Do you know what Marines do? We keep people safe, and I've never, ever left anyone behind. Not once, not ever. He smiled at her. So I promise you, Lyra, I'm going to get you and your family out of here, okay? The girl nodded. She stopped crying. Jake stood up. Let's move. Lyra watched this. She watched a man who had every reason to be bitter and angry stop in the middle of a battle to comfort a frightened child, a child from a species he had only known for a few months. They reached the end of the tunnel. It opened into a large cargo bay. Escape pods lined the walls. Everyone into the pods, Jake ordered. 4 people per pod. Families stay together. Launch as soon as you are sealed. People rushed to the pods. Jake helped them. He made sure children were strapped in correctly. He checked that elderly aliens could reach the controls. Vaughn pulled Lyra toward an empty pod. Your Highness, now! Lyra looked around. Most of the pods were full, but she saw 3 Terralux workers struggling with a broken pod door. They were stuck. Jake saw them too. He ran over. What's wrong? The seal is jammed. We can't close it. If we launch, we will die in space. I can fix this, but it will take 2 minutes. We don't have 2 minutes, the worker said. The Kryn are coming. Then we work fast. Jake pulled out a tool from his belt. Behind them, at the cargo bay entrance, the door suddenly exploded inward. Kryn warriors poured through the opening, 6 of them, then 10, then 20. They looked like nightmares made real, 7 feet tall, exoskeletons like armor, claws that could cut through steel, eyes that glowed with hunger. People screamed. The few remaining civilians ran for the pods. Jake did not run. He kept working on the broken door. Lisa, get these people out. Lisa raised her weapon and started firing at the Kryn. 2 other human security officers joined her, but there were too many Kryn. They kept coming. Vaughn grabbed Lyra's arm hard. Your Highness, we must go. But he is still fixing that door, Lyra said. Then he will die. You will not. Vaughn started dragging her toward the pod. Lyra looked back.
Jake had fixed the door. The 3 Terralux workers climbed into their pod. They were safe. But now the Kryn were almost on top of Jake. He drew his sidearm and started backing toward the remaining pods, firing, buying time. 1 pod left, 1 chance. Vorn shoved Lyra toward the pod. "Get in!" he screamed. But Lyra saw that Jake was too far away. The Kryn were between him and the pod. If she took it, he would have no escape. "Your Highness, now!"
The rescue ship found their escape pod 40 minutes later. By then, Concordia Station was completely destroyed. The Kryn had torn it apart and left. They always did that. They attacked, they destroyed, and they disappeared into dark space. But this time, they had failed. This time, 90% of the station's population had escaped. Almost 10,000 lives saved. Because one human had organized the evacuation. Because one human had refused to leave anyone behind. The rescue ship brought all the pods to a military station called Fortress Prime. It was huge and heavily defended, safe. Medical teams waited for the survivors. Commanders wanted reports. Families searched for each other. Jake stepped off his pod into chaos. Aliens everywhere. Some injured, some crying with relief, some still in shock. Admiral Corvan, a Korthon military leader, found Jake immediately. "Ambassador Morrison, we need your report." "Later," Jake said. "Right now, I need to help the medical teams. There are injured people who—" "The medical teams have it handled," Corvan interrupted. "What I need to know is how you saved so many people. Our own evacuation protocols estimated 60% survival at best. You achieved 90%. How?" Jake was tired. He wanted to rest, but he understood. The military needed to learn from this, to improve, to save more lives next time. "I kept people calm," he said simply. "I gave them clear instructions. I did not let panic spread, and I made sure everyone understood that we were all getting out together, no one left behind." Corvan studied him with respect. "You have the soul of a commander, Morrison. The Korthon Republic would be honored if you would consider—" "Thank you, Admiral, but my answer is still no." Jake had been offered military positions before. He always refused. "I am a diplomat now. I build peace, not fight wars." "Even after today? After the Kryn attacked?" "Especially after today." Jake looked around at the survivors. "Fighting is easy. Saving people is hard. I prefer hard." Corvan smiled. "The galaxy needs more people like you." He walked away to coordinate with other officers. Jake finally found a quiet corner. He sat down on a metal bench. His whole body hurt. He had not slept in 20 hours. He had not eaten in 12. But he was alive, and so were thousands of others. "Morrison?" He looked up. Princess Lyra stood in front of him. She looked terrible. Her beautiful dress was destroyed. Her white hair was tangled and dirty. Her feet were bare and bleeding from running through debris. But her violet eyes were different. They were not proud anymore. They were not arrogant. They were humble and real. "Your Highness," Jake said. He did not stand. He was too tired. "May I sit?" she asked. "It's a free bench." She sat down beside him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just sat in silence, watching the chaos of survivors around them. "I was wrong about you," Lyra finally said. "About humans. About everything." "I know." "You know?" "I watched you in that cargo bay. You gave up your escape pod for those workers. You could have saved yourself. You chose not to. That told me everything." "But you still have not forgiven me." Jake turned to look at her directly. "Forgiveness is not the problem, Your Highness. The problem is trust. You said you were sorry before, but you were just following orders from your father. How do I know this is different? How do I know you will not go back to being the same person once you're safe and comfortable again?" Lyra understood. She nodded slowly. "You cannot know. I cannot prove it with words. I can only prove it with time, with actions, with choices." "Exactly." They sat in silence again. Then Lyra said something that surprised him. "Will you teach me?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Teach you what?" "How to be like you, how to lead without demanding, how to earn respect instead of expecting it, how," she struggled for words, "how to be worthy of power instead of just having it." Jake studied her face. He looked for lies, for manipulation, for hidden motives. He found none. "That's a big request, Your Highness." "I know, but I'm serious. I have been a princess my whole life. I've never been a student. I think it is time I learned what that feels like." Before Jake could answer, a commotion broke out near the main docking bay. Soldiers stood at attention. Officers rushed to form lines. Someone important was arriving. "That's my father," Lyra said quietly. Her face went pale. "Emperor Theron." Jake stood up. This would be interesting. Emperor Theron walked through the docking bay like he owned it. He probably did. He was tall, taller than his daughter. His silver skin seemed to glow with power. His eyes were the same violet as Lyra's, but harder, colder. He wore robes that cost more than most ships. Behind him came 50 royal guards, an entire army. The Emperor's eyes found Lyra immediately. He walked straight to her. He did not look at Jake, did not acknowledge anyone else, just his daughter. "Explain," he said, one word, ice cold. Lyra stood. She did not bow. She met her father's eyes directly. "I failed, Father. I insulted Ambassador Morrison. I damaged our reputation. I nearly destroyed potential alliances. Everything you warned me about, I did. And I have learned from it." The Emperor finally looked at Jake. His expression was unreadable. "This is the human who saved thousands during the evacuation? The same human you called an ape?" "Yes, Father." "The same human who walked away from your apology?" "Yes, Father." "The same human who still saved your life when he had every reason to let you die?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Father." The Emperor turned fully to Jake. For a long moment, the most powerful ruler in this part of the galaxy and a simple Earth diplomat stared at each other. Then Emperor Theron did something no one expected. He bowed. Not a small nod, a deep, formal bow, the kind emperors never gave to anyone. The entire docking bay went silent. 50 guards stood frozen in shock. Officers stopped moving. Even the injured stopped moaning. "Ambassador Morrison," the Emperor said as he straightened, "I apologize for my daughter's behavior. I apologize for the insult to you and your species, and I thank you for saving her life when you had no obligation to do so." Jake was surprised, but he did not show it. He bowed back, exactly the same depth. "Your Majesty, I accept your apology." "However," the Emperor continued, "I did not come here just to apologize. I came here to see if my daughter learned anything from this disaster." He turned to Lyra. "Tell me, daughter, what did you learn?" Lyra took a breath. "I learned that power is not about being better than others. It is about using what you have to help those who have less. I learned that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned through actions, not titles. I learned that true strength is not fighting. It is choosing not to fight when you could. It is walking away from insults instead of responding to them." She looked at Jake. "I learned that the most powerful thing you can do is keep your dignity when someone tries to take it from you. Ambassador Morrison did not need to argue with me. He did not need to defend himself. He just removed himself from the situation. And in so doing, he showed me exactly how small I was." The Emperor listened to every word. Then he looked at Jake again. "Is this true? Is this what you were trying to teach her?" "No, Your Majesty," Jake said honestly. "I was not trying to teach her anything. I was just protecting my own dignity. If she learned from it, that was her choice, not my lesson plan." The Emperor smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine. "Honesty. I appreciate that." He gestured to his guards. Leave us, all of you." The guards hesitated. An emperor without protection was unheard of. "I said, leave," the emperor repeated. "I'm standing next to a man who saved my daughter's life. I think I'm safe." The guards left. Now it was just the three of them: emperor, princess, and diplomat. Theron sat down on the bench Jake had been using. He looked tired suddenly, old. "Do you know why I sent Lyra to that reception instead of going myself?" "Because you're ill?" Jake said. "Partially, but also because I wanted to test her. I sent her your military record beforehand. I told her to read it, to understand who you were before meeting you." He looked at his daughter with sad eyes. "She didn't read it. She saw a human diplomat and decided you were beneath her attention." Lyra's face filled with shame. "I knew she would fail," Theron continued. "I hoped she would fail small, make a minor mistake, learn from it gently." He shook his head. "Instead, she failed spectacularly. She insulted a war hero. She created enemies from potential allies. She embarrassed our entire empire." "Father, But then something interesting happened," Theron interrupted. "You walked away. You did not fight back.